A lot of you probably noticed while I was doing my sketch to plan out my Spider-Man silhouette, he's got this guy in the photograph next to him. So I'm going to use him to plan out another one. So he's pretty much standing up straight here. So probably a basic pose, not too dynamic. But his legs are missing. But I've been practicing this for a couple weeks now. You guys should have too. So you should be able to come up with a way to actually draw his legs on your own. You could use another photograph to look at. But I'm thinking I can probably come up with them using artistic license. So basically using what I know to come up with my own idea. So what I'm going to do is start out with a gesture drawing. So I'm going to start out with an oval for his head. He appears to be looking up in the photograph. So from our portrait unit, we know how to do these crosshairs to indicate that. This line curving up and then down seems to look like he's looking up there. Pretty much he's standing up straight. So I'm doing a nice straight line for his backbone and his neck. Then his shoulders. If I want to check things before I get too far along, if I look at the photograph, his head goes across his shoulders twice. If I look at my drawing, his head goes across his shoulders twice. So I'm doing lines to indicate the shape for his torso, where his waist would be. This gives me a place to hang his arms off of, so now I need a shape that I can put his legs on. So I need hips. I'm going to draw from his shoulder to his elbow, looking at where I think it is in the drawing. Doesn't have sleeves on, so we can see where his elbow would be. Using this side, I'm looking at it, sort of measuring. His hand shape seems to be hanging past his hips just a little bit, so I'm going to make sure of that in my sketch as well. The other arm is pretty much symmetrical to the first one I did. This is where I have to take that artistic license I talked about. So I've got to draw down to where I think his knees would be. So that's going to extend outside the photograph that I can see. Then I'm going to do lines that indicate down to his ankles. Now I want this guy to seem like he's up in the air. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw his feet, planning it so it looks like they're pointing with his toes pointing down. So if I do a shape like this, that seems to indicate that he's like up in the air, he's jumping. Maybe he's shooting a basketball or something. His hands don't really indicate that, but if I did his feet this way, it would look like he's jumping. Now I'm going to go in and put meat on the bone, so I'm going to put musculature to him. So I'm not playing connect the dots. These should go around the lines, they should not connect to them. So things that I can do for myself, if I feel my wrist, it gets more narrow here. If I go up towards my elbow, it gets thicker, but thinner again at the elbow. So I'm indicating that as I put these lines on here. Now, this will be a silhouette like we had talked about earlier on the page that you guys looked at and some of the videos that I showed you of my samples. So I don't have to worry about drawing on details and things that I couldn't really see. I'm mostly worried about outlining the actual figure here, thinking about where these lines and where these contours would go to show the shape of his actual outline. So my guy is actually going to turn into Superman here. So the way that I'm drawing him, it would seem that I'm doing the outlines, adding muscle to the bones and everything, but he's actually posed so he could be actually flying up in the air. I'm going around the lines, using them as the inside, not as the side of him. Here I can indicate some contours that show the hair at the top of his head. Now, Superman's going to have on a cape. We're used to seeing him like that. Here I think his muscles should go a little bit more for his shoulder. I don't have to erase that line because that's going to be colored in black. So if I put some lines here to indicate that he's actually wearing a cape, the problem is I could really mess up my work here. If I put the cape behind him, then I color everything black like we talked about on some of my samples. The shape of the cape would obscure everything I've done. What I need to make sure of is that the cape is going to be blowing off to the side. So while that will hide one of his arms, I will still be able to see his other arm, so we will know what all he's doing here. So now that I have this ready, I can talk about actually adding the color to make it into the silhouette.